What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and today we have some pretty epic, but also kind of strange, weird news today about Doctor Doom and a Doctor Doom project currently being in the works. And if it's what we think it is, it's gonna be kind of weird. And if you've heard this news, you know exactly what I'm talking about, although we are going to dive into some other things involving Doctor Doom today. So stick around, I'll put some clarity on the situation, and if you haven't heard the news, it looks like they have cast Doctor Doom, and Doom could be played by Howard Stern. And if you don't know who that is, look him up real quick and you'll all of a sudden think that, wow, this is very interesting. But Howard Stern has his own show, The Howard Stern Show, and during one of the commercials, one of the ad breaks, he accidentally left his mic on where he was talking about how he is playing Doctor Doom for Marvel and how he talked to Robert Downey Jr. So it certainly sounds like a Doom project is in the works at Marvel Studios, and that is what we've actually been hearing recently, rumbles about Doom being the main villain, and that makes sense because the Fantastic Four are coming. And typically you don't have the Fantastic Four without their main villain, Doctor Doom. However, since the Fantastic Four have been done before, Marvel Studios might switch it up just a little bit, and if they've truly cast Howard Stern as Doctor Doom, one, it's an incredibly interesting choice, and two, I'd like to know what you think about this, so let me know right away, right now in the comments down below. But let's talk about a few options of what this could actually mean. And first, let's start off by playing the actual audio that has Howard Stern saying all of this.
Tell them it works, but
shop TommyJohn.com/SXM right now for 20% off your first order.
I mean,
get 20% off right now at TommyJohn.com/SXM.
Well, I told you I'm going to do Dr. Doom.
TommyJohn.com/SXM.
That's the thing.
See site for details.
But I don't even believe me. I'm miserable about it. I don't even.
You listen to the Stern Show on your radio.
Because I want to have a new son. Because I'm an asshole. But that's what I did on America's Got Talent. So.
That's right.
You listen to the Stern Show on your radio.
Are you excited about it?
Well, yeah, I called Robert Downey Jr. and I said, like, how to do, like I was asking him acting techniques. Do you have a number for John?
So in case you couldn't hear that perfectly clear, because of course there were ads playing over it, because his microphone was actually not supposed to be on, that's how this all got out. Here's what he actually said. They're going over the schedule with me, and it's going to suck. Then somebody asks if he's going to be working, and he says, I told you I'm going to do Doctor Doom. That's the thing, but believe me, I'm effing miserable about it. I called Robert Downey Jr. and was asking him acting techniques. Do you have a number for John? And we assume this is Jon Favreau, but Howard Stern knows everybody. He could be talking about literally any John. So this is really, really interesting. This is coming directly from him, and he is saying that he's going to be doing Doctor Doom. Now keep in mind right here, and this is kind of a crucial and very important part, he says he's going to do Doctor Doom. He doesn't actually say that he's going to be playing the role of Doctor Doom. He says he's going to do Doctor Doom. So that right there means that he could be referring to Doctor Doom simply as the movie. He could be doing the movie. He could be acting in the movie, not actually playing Victor Von Doom himself. Because I gotta tell you, although I have nothing against Howard Stern at all, I don't think he'd make a really good Doctor Doom. Plus, not to mention, he doesn't really act. It's not like he's an actor. He is a host. He hosts his show. He was on America's Got Talent as one of the judges, which of course is somewhat acting, but he doesn't have any, main acting jobs under his belt or any major huge roles under his belt as well, which you would assume with Marvel Studios, whoever they would cast as Doctor Doom would have some major acting experience behind them. Even if it's small roles and it's a relatively unknown actor, you can assume that that actor has a lot of experience still. So this may mean that he's simply involved in the project but not playing Doctor Doom. But let's talk about the options like I mentioned. One is that he actually could be playing Doctor Doom. Of course, that is an option based off of what he has said. He even says that he called Robert Downey Jr. to talk about acting techniques, but that right there is kind of a sign to me that he's not going to be playing the main Victor Von Doom. Again, he doesn't have that much acting experience, and if you have to call somebody else to talk about acting techniques, you're not getting cast as a main role for Marvel Studios. You're just not. Now, a smaller role, sure, there's absolutely a possibility that he's going to be in this Doctor Doom project, which I believe is what's happening here. So that's our second option. He is simply playing another character. And this character could be a small character. It could be a character who is there every now and then, maybe like a henchman of Doctor Doom or an assistant for Doctor Doom, somebody who works for him, but basically not the main role. And now I've heard some people say, well, maybe he's simply working on the film or the project, but not actually playing playing any type of role in it? Well, he does say he calls Robert Downey Jr. and he asks him about acting techniques. So based off of that right there, I would definitely say that he is playing in an acting role and not simply just working on the movie. Now, another thing that could be happening here that I haven't really heard a lot of people mention is that he could be doing a different Doom project that is not taking place inside of the MCU. We know that Marvel has podcasts. They have the Wolverine podcast, which is really good. If you haven't heard that, I suggest you check it out. And they have others as well. So this very well could be for a podcast. It also could be for some type of different show. It could be for an animated show. We know that Marvel Studios is doing What If 2. It very well could be for that. We know that they're doing another Spider-Man animated show, an X-Men animated show. He could be voicing Doctor Doom in any of these shows. And that could be what he is referring to when he says, I'm doing Doctor Doom. Now, as far as my take is concerned, I actually do think he is talking about an MCU Doctor Doom project, but I do not believe he is playing Doom. The reason that I think it is an MCU project is because he does talk about talking to Robert Downey Jr. He says he called Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. And then he was asking for John's number, and I do assume that it's Jon Favreau, who has just been a huge staple to the MCU and to Star Wars and Lucasfilm, but we're talking about Marvel right now. So again, I don't think that Howard Stern would be cast as Doctor Doom. If you think about it, it just really doesn't make that much sense. One, he doesn't have the acting experience for it, and Marvel Studios isn't going to bring in actors who aren't really actors. Don't get me wrong, like I said, Howard Stern is great at what he does, but he's not an actor, he's a host. So that doesn't make too much sense. One is that he doesn't really have the build or look for Victor Von Doom. And I mean this in no offense to him, but he's too old for the role. This is like talking about Hugh Jackman coming back to play Wolverine. Well, he's too old for the role right now. And I think most people would agree that Howard Stern just is kind of too old for the role. We need a Doctor Doom who's going to be in the MCU for 10 years, maybe even longer. Hopefully everything is going to eventually lead up to God Emperor Doom, one of the greatest comic book villains of all time. And especially if this is going to be leading up to Avengers Secret Wars. So what I believe has happened here is that Howard Stern has simply confirmed that a Doom project is in the works. I do not think he is playing Doctor Doom, but what this has shown us is that Doctor Doom is coming to the MCU, which is fantastic and has actually been rumored for some time now. A lot of the insiders have been posting tweets talking about Doctor Doom, and they've said that he's coming sooner than we think. And this right here just proves that they were right. It looks like a Doctor Doom project is in the works, and they've already cast for it, which is the crazy part, because if they've cast Howard Stern in some other role, they've probably cast Victor Von Doom, which means the MCU has their Doctor Doom. Who do you think it could be? Who do you think would make a good Doctor Doom? There are a lot of good casting choices out there, and like I always say, in Feige we trust. He's always cast very well for these roles. I'm not really worried about who they cast, but I am excited to find out. But hit me with your best guess down below. Let me know who you would like to see play Doctor Doom. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.